Coming up.
Our platform, for example, we're focused on home ownership, but not just home ownership. It's really around financial decisioning and behavior, right? How do we help you understand? So it's a bit of financial literacy, financial decisioning, financial behavior, because that's really what leads to financial outcomes. It's the steps. And so we have to educate you and let you know about how the game works. Then from that, we're going to help you to break bad financial habits and install new ones. And then what are the things that you need to do to then reinforce those new habits so they become second nature to you?
It's so good to see you, Hidden Nation. Welcome into the studio. You got Josh Cary right here. It's your hidden entrepreneur. Hidden Nation, today's episode is, dare I say, extremely important because it's on the topic of financial independence, how to understand the financial game, how to become a better, smarter consumer. And to help us, we have the perfect person. It's Castleigh Johnson. He is the founder and CEO of My Home Pathway. And I spent a good deal of time before air just getting some insight. And boy, is this the conversation we need as people, as consumers, and certainly as entrepreneurs and business owners. Castleigh, welcome to the program.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me. Thanks for Hidden Nation for supporting Josh and for the other founders and other business folks that you have featured. And yes, financial independence is critical for us all, for us to build our own legacies, for us to gain financial independence and just better financial decisioning overall that unlocks opportunity for us all. So that's really what it's about, how we unlock the best opportunities for us.
And it comes down to knowing what we don't know. You were telling me that this is all a financial game. First, what is the game? What game are we playing, actually?
So finance in general is really a big set of interconnected games, right? So if you think about the stock market, you think about credit and credit cards and you think about other insurance. So there's all these different avenues to finance, whether it's personal finance, whether it's, multinational, commercial, et cetera, larger finance. But let's zone in on consumer, personal, right? My financial picture, your income, your job, right? That provides income, part of your finances, right? The taxes that you pay. So there's good, if you get a good accountant, you can work on tax strategies. But let's get into a little bit other parts. Credit, the big piece that a lot of people, you want to get a home, you want to buy a car, you want to go on vacation, I'm putting on my credit card, you want to learn the points game when it comes to credit cards. There's all these different aspects. And for a lot of us, we don't truly understand what these things are and what they mean. And so you're almost playing a losing game, right? And so if you don't truly understand the game you're playing, how can you actually win at that game? And so let's dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
I had this rhetorical question. Obviously, your audience can't answer this question right now, but let's just say, for example, how many people have ever explicitly given authority for anyone to create a credit score on them?
No.
Pause for a second, right? And yes, you just answered the question.
Yeah.
Explicitly, none of us have, but it's embedded in so many agreements that we sign, student loans, when you take them out first, your first credit card, whether you go apply for an apartment and landlord runs your credit. There's so many agreements that have embedded in them that, you give the creditor, whatever company that's going to give you access to, home loan, student loan, whatever, the opportunity to go look for a credit score for you. And if they don't find one and they still give you credit, they can then open a credit score for you. And so that's one of the things that's very important that, you're in the game, whether you realize it or not, right? And for most Americans, we have some access to credit, some, personal finance, even a cell phone. It can be like, oh, I want to be off the grid in terms of like big credit cards or anything like that. But you open a cell phone. When you ever took out a student loan, you automatically created one. So that's one of the really interesting parts. The other part is I'd ask folks, hey, how many credit scores do you think you have? And most people are going to guesstimate 2 to 4, 3, 1.
Yeah.
You have north of 70 credit scores.
70?
It's a lot of credit scores.
What does
Wow.
that mean?
Correct. Each consumer has a product credit score. Let's go to product.
Uh-huh.
Credit card credit score, auto loan credit score, student loan credit score, home mortgage credit score, something called a general obligation credit score.
Hmm.
And then there are three main bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And they have two different models, FICO and Vantage, that produce different credit scores for the products that I just mentioned, right? So 3x6 there is easy, right? That's minimum quick 18. And then there's two different types because there's Vantage and FICO. So that's an easy, right? We're going to 30 something already. Then large institutions have to have their own tailored credit score on Josh. Like JP Morgan can't use just the run of the mill vanilla credit bureau scores. They actually create their own credit scores on you that map over to some of these. So there's so many credit scores out there for you that you don't even know about. There again, your auto insurance is different from your auto car loan credit score. They're two different credit scores just for auto, right? And so that's a part of the complexity when it comes to credit and understanding that. But at a high level, generally they're directionally about the same. What do I mean by that? A person with a B is like a B minus to a B plus ish, generally across all those models, right? All those different scores. If you're very infrequently that a person that's a D is an A in any of those models or any of those scores. It's about within, reasonable
Right.
ranges. And so that's what you should more be concerned about is not the actual specific model and specific score. It's kind of just where you align. Am I a good score, good risk? Because at the end of the day, those credit scores are trying to predict from a lender standpoint is how good of a risk is Josh to me as
Mhm.
an institution. So based on your previous behavior, they're going to say, Josh has paid back all this stuff. He knows how to balance his usage of credit when he gets it. He's not maxing out every month on stuff. He's not missed payments. So it's a behavior. Your score's supposed to be predictive of good financial decisions and behavior, right? That's really what it's. So let's just use a simple example. We all got cousins and family, right? And all of us know the family members, if I give $100 to, it's charity. I will never get that money
Oh
back.
no, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back.
I'm getting paid in 2 weeks. It's 2 years now. The interest on that VIG, if I was the mob, I would have been owed $2,000 by then. But we all have this score in our own heads, right? With our families and close associates. We know if I give my boy $10,000, by next week I'm getting back 10,500 or more. That's because I know the relationships, right? That is about what your score says to a lender. If I give Josh 10 grand or $500 or $1,000, what are the chances Josh is my good cousin that's
Yeah.
going to pay me back, or my cousin that's a charitable write-off?
Yeah.
And that's also why they say, you know what, this cousin you're only getting $100 because
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it's a charitable write-off. This person I will give $10,000 to because I'm pretty sure you're going to pay me back. You're stand-up person, stand-up guy, stand-up woman, stand-up person. That is what your score is telling somebody.
Yeah.
And so you need to understand that, like, hey, if I have a 600 or 550 credit score, I don't look like a stand-up person, right? So how do I become that stand-up person? How do I understand what it takes to be that stand-up person in this system? So this is why it's a bit of a game. So there's a system around these credit scores that a lot of consumers don't truly understand and appreciate. We're just trying to help them to get a better sense of that and to
Yeah.
put their best foot forward so they can be that trusted cousin that's like, hey, I won't even think twice. Josh got that 10,000. I'm going to get it back, not even breaking a sweat, right?
I love talking to someone like you because I know, Castleigh, you have your MBA from NYU. So you know all of this inside. What I hear as a consumer all the time, tell me if this is accurate. You also come from the banking and finance world deeply. Is this true? They say that no, those big banks and lenders, they want to keep us poor. They want to keep us in debt. They don't want us to get out. Is that true? Is that the game we're inadvertently playing?
Well, credit comes with a thing called interest. So it is in a bank's best interest to keep you paying interest, right? So, to a certain extent, yes,
Because that's
banks
their
make
revenue.
money
Yeah.
is their revenue, right? The biggest part of a typical bank's revenue stream is interest payments. And so, to a certain extent, yes, they want to keep you in the game of paying interest. Now, the other side of that, they want to be paid that interest. So they try to minimize the people that aren't. The cousin with $1,100 cousin, they're trying to weed out those $100 cousins that are not going to pay them back.
Mm.
And so, because that also increases the cost of capital for everyone because they take those write-offs so that reduces their income. And so now they got to figure out charge people a little bit more, even the good ones, to offset the ones that they're going to lose money on, right? So technically, as an institution, financial institutions, they want better risks to come to them because those risks, those better risks, those smarter consumers are much more likely to pay back that borrowed money and at the agreed terms, right? So if I lent you money at 5%, you're going to pay me back at 5%. Not worrying about you missing payments or you not honoring a contract. Because end of the day, it's honoring a contract, right? You agreed to X, I agreed to lend you this, and you agreed to pay me back at this point time frame, right? And that's usually what's considered installment loans, right? Something that has a term date, like a date you have to pay it back. So your credit card is a non-term loan, right? Revolving loan. So your credit card is like, hey, you got $10,000 in credit, you can go up to 10,000, come back down to zero, back and forth, right? So again, those things are around access, and a bank wants the people that are, if I give you access, you're going to honor that contract and not miss the payments and not put me in a bad spot, right? So to a certain extent, do banks want to keep you paying interest? Absolutely. Do they want you to miss those interest payments or any other payments? Absolutely not. So that's the part. That's why even if you miss a cell phone payment or utilities payment or anything like that, it starts to show a pattern of irresponsible behavior
Mm.
for whatever reason, right? You went on vacation, your auto pay didn't work, but the bank doesn't know that, right? And so sometimes you have to write these letters to help clean up some of the stuff. And so, some of them call goodwill letters. So if you ever missed a payment, but again, that's not your routine, typical behavior. That's where you can again reach out and get some clarity. And again, most institutions have some understanding that you may not be 100% perfect. Something could have happened, but when you have a pattern of bad decisioning, I'm missing payments every 4 months, 6 months. That's kind of who you are, right? So that's also why I may not want to give you access, or if I do give you access, I'm charging you really high interest rates because you're probably going to miss that payment and put me as a financial institution in a bad way. So are there predatory institutions out there? Absolutely. And the one thing I will say to folks as well, like even if you have a great credit score and you're a great risk, let's, for example, 750 credit score, which is pretty good, like you're in the excellent range. 850 is typically perfect. But really anything up between 750 up is vanity. You pretty much can get access to everything at 750 up and really good rates. Now, what I would say is at that credit score, at that marker, you'll have 400 institutions that really want to give you access. The difference between a person with a 750 and somebody with a 550, for example, or 600, the person with 750 has 200, 300 institutions that want to give them access. They can pick the best of those institutions. They don't have to worry about, even the predatory folks would want to go after 750 people. But the 750 people don't even look because it's not even in my realm. You're nowhere in my decisioning process. Now, sometimes when you're in that 550 range, now those options cut down. Now you have two or three options. And a lot of those aren't the best options for you. But because of the lack of options, a lot of times people take those options and then put themselves in an even worse position, right? So you have to understand that you want to give yourself the best options for the best opportunity for yourself. So you need to understand what it takes to get to that next level, right? And so, where am I today? So, just from a straight standpoint, where am I today? I'm a higher risk. I'm, not great, but I want to get to better. And so, just understanding those gaps or where you currently are and what does it take for me to get from point A to point B. And again, there's a lot of shout out to TikTok. I like it as an entity, but there's so much BS on TikTok. Please don't follow half of that stuff. Um, there's so many different videos, tools out there that claiming that they're going to help you and don't put people in a better position. And so it's a little bit hard to do due diligence
Hmm.
and figure out what's really accurate. And so we, really want people to be able to have opportunities. So if, like our platform, for example, we're focused on home ownership, but not just home ownership. It's really around financial decisioning and behavior, right? How do we help you understand, so it's a bit of financial literacy, financial decisioning, financial behavior, because that's really what leads to financial outcomes. It's the steps. And so we have to educate you and let you know about how the game works. Then from that, we're going to help you to break bad financial habits and install new ones. And then what are the things that you need to do to then reinforce those new habits so they become second nature to you? Right? Those second nature habits are what's going to help you to get to that next level and continue to improve and lead to those better financial outcomes.
Could we talk about these habits for a minute? What are
Yep.
some of the, whether as the consumer and or a business owner, entrepreneur, what are some of these like terrible habits that low hanging fruit we can just cross off and say, hey, try to cut down on that?
I mean, so just as a consumer, vices or impulsive buying. What is a vice? I might love handbags, right? As a consumer, or I might love Jordans, or I might love vacations, or I might love fancy cars. It's okay to have one or two vices, maybe, right? The challenge becomes when you have multiple vices that you have to support. Like you love handbags, you love concerts, you love vacations, you love luxurious homes, you love you love five or six main things that are going to tap out your resources. And so what you end up doing is a lot of times overextending yourself
On credit.
on credit, right? Because your income can't keep up with all these vices. So part of it is understanding your own, what is important to you, right? As a consumer, and where are you currently in your financial standing? And be real honest with yourself. If you're making $60,000, which is a good salary, you might not be able to drive that C9 Corvette, right? That's just facts. Otherwise, you'd be paying $1,300 a month plus insurance for that Corvette, right? You have no cash flow. And so just understanding what those things that you can reasonably do within your budget. So understanding budget. What can I do? What do I be smart at? Understanding shopping patterns. For the summertime, you buy stuff in the winter for the summer. Super simple things, right? And then in almost every place in the world, there's a sale for the thing that you want to buy. Be very strategic around how you shop if you do have vices, right? But again, if you have multiple, prioritize and try to cut down, right? Cut down to one or two. I love, say, Jordans. Cool. I'm going to buy 3 pair for the entire year. I put that money aside and I know that I'm going to get those. That's how my dopamine rush. When I get my one Jordan for the next quarter, I'm good for now. Versus I'm buying 6 pair of Jordans in 1 month, right? That's not smart. And so we just have to think about the decisions that we do because that also drives up your credit utilization, which is a big thing on your credit score. And so keeping your credit utilization under 25% or so is super important because that's where you're really showing good financial decisioning to your lenders. Like I know how to manage revolving credit, right? I don't live on the edge. When I have high credit utilization, 80%, 90%, all that looks like to them is Josh lives on the edge. At any point, Josh loses his job for a little bit. Now Josh doesn't have much flexibility. It takes 1.5 months, and Josh is paying, He's at 100% credit utilization plus more, right? So you want to think about these decisions. And then I think it's really just very interesting to, when you're looking at, partners, assessing your partner's financial capabilities as well. Because a lot of time there are challenges when people get into relationships with partners that don't share the same financial values as they do. And so there's conflict that comes up. And there's a
Mm.
lot of times, going outside and pushing the boundaries really past where you're both comfortable and trying the things that you're trying to achieve and attain. But in general, it's just really around your vices, understanding your budgets, understanding what does it look like for me as a consumer, and again, making those better, smarter financial decisions, getting financial literacy, like what is actually true financial literacy? What are, credit scores? What is a budget, true budget? How do you set up auto deductions for fixed expense items? And what's the difference between fixed expense and variable expense items, right? They're both count as cash flow, but they're both different sets of those expenses. And why is it, debt to income ratios are typically focused on fixed expense items because those are the requirements. Your variable expenses, I'm going to dinner, 4 times a month. I'm going to the movies. I'm going to vacation. I'm buying clothes. Those are variable because you can change those at any time you want, less so. But your more fixed expenses, my rent,
Mhm.
car insurance, my student loan, things that I really don't have much choice on, and I pretty much have to pay, right? So it's just understanding some of those things and their impacts and your decisions around those impacts, because that really gives you more leverage to eventually make even better, smarter decisions. So there's a discipline item, really, which again, a lot of us really don't love discipline. Like if my doc says, hey, bro, you got to lose 15 pounds, but the discipline item is 30 minutes minimum of exercise 5 times a week, 4 times a week, I might do two or three, right? But I know in reality, I need 4 to 5. And so that discipline in terms of our financial decisioning are the same type of disciplines we need to have, in various aspects of our lives, right? Whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, reading books and educating yourself. Yeah, reading books kind of sounds corny, but it's dope for information, right? But it's also how you learn things and truly, build the knowledge base. Like I love generative AI and all the AI tools and capabilities. Books is still a genuine source of true information as well.
Castleigh, you are one of those people that it's just like you should have on speed dial. Like you are the guy to just tell us what we don't know. You know, this is what's so fascinating. I wish we had so much more time. Wrap it up for us. Put this in a nice big bow. What is the overriding message for the listener that they can take on their day?
The overriding message for you is you got goals to accomplish. Figure out what those are, right? What's super important to you. And, once you get that locked in, then you can make all the right decisions from there. Do I want to say, buy a home? Do I want to save $1 million for retirement? Do I want to retire in 10 years? Whatever those things are, lock those in and then work backwards. So I want to buy a home. What's the right thing for me to do to get to that leverage or that point? I want to be able to save $1 million. I want to, put trust money for my kids, whatever those things are, figure those goals out. Then, get the right information. With our platform, we're focused on home ownership. So if you are interested in home ownership, please jump on our platform, myhomepathway.com, and sign up, and we can help you there. But again, if you want to achieve other goals, just set those goals and we'll work backwards. And it's really around embedding smart financial decisioning into your everyday habits, right? Once you learn it and you embed that skill, and you start to improve your financial decisioning, your outcomes will get better, right? The outcomes are a byproduct of the stuff you're going to do before that. And that's really what we want people to understand. Put in the work and we got you.
Magnificent. Castleigh Johnson, myhomepathway.com. You are incredible. I appreciate everything you're about. Thanks for joining the program today.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you to the team.